the administration's rhetoric. But too much is resting on US courts, even as the latest ruling of Trump tariffs being illegal on Friday came post-market close, leading into the long holiday weekend. Now, the direction for US tariffs is up, not down, because the pressure on the White House from financial markets has diminished since the month of April. But the volatility and the moves in the dying session of the month showed September will see a legal challenge to the tariffs. The big wildcard would be if the Supreme Court strikes down Trump's country-specific tariffs. There would be chaos in global markets, no doubt. But then there are plenty of other powers at the president's disposal to impose tariffs through other means. When Trump extended the truce with China, he upped his tariffs on India for buying Russian oil. But those tariffs have brought India and China closer. Analysts now say that it is no longer China plus one, but China plus India. And the SCO Summit is being called an important step in that direction. In August, gold made a remarkable comeback, even as Wall Street's momentum train hit full speed into September. The yellow metal rose to near record highs, soaring 5% during this month. Crude oil and Bitcoin took the biggest hit in August. Benchmark Brent oil fell nearly 6% on worries about crude flows. However, the other side of the argument was reflected in the dollar's decline in August. Trump claims millions of dollars in revenue from tariffs, but the US currency took a beating, reflecting investors' bet on who is actually winning here. Investor caution is also driven by fresh political pressure on the Federal Reserve. Stock markets. China's main stock index led the gains in the region with 8% gains. The US-China trade truce kept investors betting on Chinese stocks. Japanese stocks were not left far behind, and Japan's Nikkei closed out the month with 4% gains, and the Aussie index rose 2.6%. But the only exception and the most telling move is reflected in Indian stocks, taking a beating from Trump's 50% tariffs. The Indian benchmark closed out August with 1.7% losses. In the Americas, Wall Street stocks hit fresh record highs during the month. The S&P 500 notched a fourth straight monthly gain. However, a tech rout weighed on sentiment before the September challenge for stocks. September has usually been a bad month for global stocks, but last week's wobble offered insights into what to expect this September. Brazilian and Canadian stocks showed grand gains to show a different mood for these countries. Across the Atlantic, European stocks reflected the reality. The nuanced moves in benchmarks across the region showed mixed sentiment. While the UK's FTSE gained, the French CAC and the German DAX ended in the red. The South African stock index was a standout with 3.4% gains. What happens in the Russia-Ukraine peace talks now is likely to drive European stocks in the month ahead, rather than Trump's drama on social media. And thousands of fiery redheads descended upon the Netherlands for the annual Redhead Days Festival, a vibrant celebration of all things ginger. The 2025 Redhead Days Festival in the Netherlands promises a fun-filled 3-day extravaganza featuring music, food, trucks, and of course workshops catering specifically to redheads' needs, including makeup tutorials and skin cancer prevention advice. Expecting over several thousand attendees from around 80 countries, the festival is open to all for free. The 2013 edition of the festival had achieved a Guinness World Record for the largest gathering of people with natural red hair, with 1,672 participants in the group photograph. This festival's origin dates back 2 decades when Dutch artist Bart Rubenhorst advertised for 15 red-haired models for an art project. Surprisingly, he received 10 times the expected responses, leading him to organize a photo shoot with the entire group. The project's massive attention prompted Rubenhorst to host a similar gathering the following year, which eventually evolved into the multi-day festival he oversees today.
Yeah, the festival is really amazing because all the people they resemble each other and they feel like it's a family. So if you stand in line for something, you just start talking to other people and they talk back. It's really a sort of cozy experience.
And in China's Jilin province, Changchun is casting itself as a gateway to the future. At the 15th China Northeast Asia Expo, humanoid robots and trailblazing advances in smart manufacturing take center stage as 6 Northeast Asian nations unite under one roof, unlocking opportunity and shaping a shared path to prosperity. We leave you here with this report. We'll take a quick break after that. Stay with us.
Israel is brazening it out in Gaza. Journalists are being targeted and killed. Famine is deepening, but Netanyahu remains in denial. Houthis are shocking Israel, unleashing a deadly missile with multiple warheads. And in Turkey, a cup of coffee comes with a glimpse of destiny, blending centuries of tradition with a ritual of fortune.
Watch the West Asia Post with me, Radi Francis, only on WION. World is one.
On Wings this week, we highlight this week's Ganesh Chaturthi celebrations. We also visit the Symphony Orchestra of India and experience a fall season performance. We also cover exciting and vibrant festivals across the world. Only on WION, World is One.
Is it a boat? Is it a plane? Is it an EV that runs on rails? Solar cars that face off in the desert, race against time and each other. Drones that clean up Everest's muck, seed the forest and geotag whales. But on your phone there's no such luck. There's a new scam in town and you better watch out. Only on WION, World is One at these times.
Então deixa-me ali para fazer transporte! Não temos tempo! Bora! Transporte!
Vielleicht nur als
Welcome back. You're watching WION World is One. I'm Shivan Janna. Lots more to discuss from Tianjin. Let's start with the headlines. Prime Minister Modi tells President Xi Jinping that mutual trust and respect to take India-China ties forward during their bilateral meeting on the sidelines of the SCO Summit. Chinese President Xi Jinping, during his meeting with Prime Minister Modi, says that it is the right choice for both countries to be friends who have good neighborly and amicable ties, and to have the dragon and the elephant come together. President Vladimir Putin says Russia and China have taken a common stand against discriminatory sanctions that hinder the socio-economic development of BRICS member countries. Indonesian President Prabowo Subianto cancels a planned trip to China as days of protests spread further outside the capital Jakarta, with several regional parliament buildings set ablaze. Israeli forces have reportedly carried out fresh airstrikes on the outskirts of Nabateeh in Lebanon. Chicago Mayor Brandon Johnson says police will not collaborate with any National Guard troops or federal agents if US President Donald Trump deploys them to the city in the coming days as threatened. Thousands of Australians marched across the country to protest mass immigration, with some 5,000 to 8,000 people assembling for a Sydney rally. A flotilla carrying humanitarian aid and activists, including Swedish climate campaigner Greta Thunberg, is due to leave from Barcelona to try to break the Israeli siege of Gaza. A former humanitarian Speaker of Parliament, who has a leading figure in the country's pro-European protest movements of 2004 and 2014, is shot dead in western Ukraine. Indian Prime Minister, during his monthly radio address Mann Ki Baat, shares the pain of the people affected by havoc caused by floods and landslides, and praised the work of relief agencies in India. Trade talks between the US and Japan hit a snag this week after Tokyo strongly objected to a Trump administration demand to buy more American rice. Japan cancelled a key visit, calling the request interference in domestic affairs. Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi is in China for the Shanghai Cooperation Organization Summit. The SCO is part of the multinational platforms where India shares the stage with the region and, of course, global powers. Both leaders, Xi Jinping and Narendra Modi, they shook hands right before the bilateral meeting, which lasted about an hour. And this was only the second bilateral meet between the two leaders since last year's Kazan BRICS summit. Prime Minister Modi said that an agreement was reached between the two countries to continue the Kailash Mansarovar pilgrimage and that direct flights were also being resumed between India and China. He also thanked President Xi Jinping for the successful hosting of the SCO Summit in Tianjin.
सीमा पर डिसएग्रीमेंट के बाद शांति और स्थिरता का माहौल बना हुआ है। हमारे स्पेशल रिप्रेजेंटेटिव्स के बीच बॉर्डर मैनेजमेंट के संबंध में सहमति बनी। कैलाश मानसरोवर यात्रा फिर से शुरू की। दोनों देशों के बीच डायरेक्ट फ्लाइट भी फिर से शुरू की जा रही है। हमारे सहयोग से दोनों देशों के 2.8 बिलियन लोगों के हित जुड़े हुए हैं। इससे पूरी मानवता के कल्याण का मार्ग भी प्रशस्त होगा। परस्पर विश्वास, सम्मान और संवेदनशीलता के आधार पर हम अपने संबंधों को आगे बढ़ाने के लिए प्रतिबद्ध है। एजेंसी चीन द्वारा एससीओ की सफल अध्यक्षता के लिए मैं आपको बहुत बहुत बधाई देता हूं। एक बार फिर चीन यात्रा के निमंत्रण के लिए और आज की हमारी बैठक के लिए आपका हार्दिक धन्यवाद।
President Xi Jinping, in his statement, emphasized that it was vital that the two friendly and populous countries worked together for the benefit and well-being of their citizens.
The world today is swept by once-in-a-century transformations. The international situation is both fluid and chaotic. China and India are two ancient civilizations in the East. We are the world's two most populous countries, and we are also important members of the global South. We both shoulder the historical responsibility of improving the well-being of our two peoples, promoting the solidarity and rejuvenation of developing countries, and promoting the progress of human society. It is the right choice for both sides to be friends who have good neighborly and amicable ties, partners who enable each other's success, and to have the dragon and the elephant dance together.
All right, to discuss this further, I'm now being joined live by Ambassador Anil Wadhwa, who's joining me from New Delhi. Ambassador Wadhwa, thanks so much for making time for us. The statements have come in, sir, from both sides. The Indian Prime Minister has spoken, the Chinese President has spoken. It all seems very warm. There are enough, words, multipolarity, multilateralism. It's all been thrown out there. Is it all as it seems? Let's look forward, keeping the past aside as of now. But is it possible to keep the past aside even with these statements coming in? All right, we'll try to reconnect that connection with Ambassador Wadhwa. All right, I think we've been able to reconnect. Ambassador Wadhwa, if you heard what I asked, if you can just repeat your answer again.
And then the meeting.
We can hear you now, sir. Please go ahead.
Yes, what I was trying to say is that we've had some successful visits from. We had some successful visits from both sides over the past 1 year, and obviously there's been an important agreement which has been reached on the border, especially the last visit of Wang Yi to India, where he discussed, the mechanisms on the border with the special representative, Mr. Ajit Doval, has been quite successful. Soon after that, we've seen that the border mechanism setup, which met thereafter, has been able to agree on 10 very important points. So therefore, from disengagement point of view and going on to de-escalation, that was the important step that needed to be taken. It seems to me that that has been agreed upon in the last meeting. Now it remains to be seen how we progress from here in the future, because that is the key going forward in India-China relations. Of course, there have been some other important agreements that have been reached, and Prime Minister referred to some of them. From the Indian point of view, the most important is resumption of some very important exports from China to India, which feed into the automotive industry, like magnets, for example, and at the same time, the tunnel boring machines and specialty fertilizers, APIs, etc. From the Chinese side, they would like to see liberalization of Chinese investments into India. And there again, I think the Indian ministries are having a review of the situation of Press Note 3 in particular, so as to allow Chinese investments into specific sectors, leaving aside the sensitive ones.
Understood.
If all this goes through successfully, then of course the atmosphere will be built for a longer term successful relationship.
Understood.
As you rightly said, it's very difficult to forget what has happened in the past. And I think there would be caution on the side, at least of the Indians, going forward in this relationship.
Ambassador Wadhwa, very quickly, I also wanted to get your thoughts on this, because there is a looming Trump shadow with his tariffs. Both countries share those woes, but Kazan happened before Trump 2.0 came in. So that effort to bring the two countries together had already started. This has perhaps exacerbated it. Now, at this point, how do you feel US is going to be viewing the developments coming in from Tianjin?
1 year or so. And also, the visit of Prime Minister Modi for the SCO meeting had been announced quite well in advance. This is much before the extra 25% tariffs imposed by the United States on India. So I think one cannot read too much into that. I think it's just a coincidence that this visit is happening at this point, and these two processes are something which are quite apart from each other. Now, of course, the United States would be looking at this quite closely as to what kind of statements come out and what is the rapprochement between India and China, and the whole SCO meeting itself as to what it comes out with by way of its joint communique, etc. So that is something that the United States and the West has been wary of for quite some time together. But I see that this particular SCO meeting has a special significance because we have a call of reviving the RIC framework by the Russians. And of course, the Chinese would love to have this revival going forward so that they have an extra pressure point as far as the United States is concerned. So therefore, this SCO meeting will be particularly watched from that angle.
Ambassador Wadhwa, thanks so much for joining us here on the broadcast. Always a pleasure speaking with you. There will be more to discuss. I would love to have you again.
Thank you.
Now, the European Union foreign ministers, they met in Copenhagen recently. This happened on Saturday, but the talks exposed deep divisions over the war in Gaza. Some countries called for stronger economic pressure on Israel, while others made clear that they would not support such moves. Now, this split has left the bloc struggling to form a common strategy.
It's clear that member states disagree on how to get Israeli government to change course. The options are clear and remain on the table. We have presented an option paper, but the problem is that not all EU member states are on board.
Denmark warned that Israel's actions and expanding settlements are undermining the possibility of a two-state solution and said that inaction could strengthen extremism.
Israel is right now undermining the two-state solution, and taking action against that is not strengthening Hamas. You could argue the opposite. Because if we do not intervene, if we do not have any actions, then we give room to the most extremist environments at both sides of the conflict.
EU ministers also urged the United States to reconsider blocking Palestinian representatives from taking part in the upcoming United Nations General Assembly. Beyond Gaza, the meeting turned to Russia's war in Ukraine, with member states asking to submit proposals for a new package of sanctions.
Ministers discussed the possible building blocks for the next sanction package. Options include secondary sanctions, those backing Russia's war, as well as import bans and tariffs on Russian products. Efforts against shadow fleet ships must also be stepped up.
Now, in the end, Europe left Copenhagen without consensus on Gaza, but with a renewed push for unity on both West Asia and Ukraine. And a deadly strike has upended the balance in West Asia. The Houthis' prime minister is killed in a dramatic Israeli missile attack, and Yemen erupts in rage thereafter, vowing a fierce revenge. With thunderous force, Israeli warplanes blasted a site where the senior Houthi leadership had assembled for a meeting in capital Sana'a. On Thursday, Israeli forces had said that they struck a Houthi regime military target. The Yemen-based rebels have now confirmed that their prime minister is dead.
Though the enemy has inflicted pain on us with this attack, we vow before God, the people of Yemen, and the families of the martyrs and wounded, that we will take revenge. From our deep pain, we will forge victory. We affirm to our people that our armed forces remain strong, and the enemy's gain was nothing more than a stroke of luck.
Ghalib Nasser al-Rahawi is the most senior official known to have died in a series of attacks during the Gaza war. Now, tens of thousands, this is the most senior death in Yemen during this war. Tens of thousands of Yemenis gathered at the Al Sabin Square in the capital Sana'a and various locations in Houthi-controlled areas to protest against Israeli airstrikes. The protesters say they are opposing Israeli airstrikes in Yemen and the military operations in the Gaza Strip and the West Bank, and express their solidarity with the Palestinian people.
Israel's bombings and brutal aggression will not shake the stance of the Houthi armed forces and the Yemeni people in supporting the Palestinian people. International law clearly stipulates that in the face of genocide, any country has an obligation to intervene.
The Houthis have appointed Deputy Prime Minister Mohammad Ahmad Miftah as interim Prime Minister following Rahawi's death. For months, the Houthis have fired their own missiles towards Israel, which is about 2,000 kilometers away. And since October of 2023, Houthi forces have carried out near-daily attacks against Israeli-linked shipping in the Red Sea, as well as targets in Israel proper, such as air and sea ports, launching more than 70 missiles and 22 drones towards Israel since the month of March this year. Israel's jets have hit Houthi targets before. The Americans too have launched coordinated airstrikes on Houthi hideouts. Anti-asylum protests continue to disrupt the socio-political landscape of the United Kingdom. British police arrest 5 people at a latest protest in London, where a group of masked men attempted to enter a hotel housing asylum seekers. Now, according to London's Metropolitan Police Force, 2 groups of anti-asylum protesters marched to the Crown Plaza Hotel near Heathrow Airport before some demonstrators tried to break in. 2 police officers have suffered minor injuries in the incident, and this comes a day after the British government won a court ruling that will prevent asylum seekers from being evicted from the hotel, which is at the center of most of the anti-asylum demonstrations. Just last week, court mandated the removal of asylum seekers from the Bell Hotel in Epping after a 32-year-old Syrian national named Mohammed Sharwark, who resided at this hotel, was charged with sexual assault. Now, this protest follows a series of confrontations, most recently in Epping and Liverpool, where large numbers of anti-immigration protesters and counter-protesters faced off in the city centre, with police forced to step in to keep the 2 sides apart, a stark sign of mounting tensions over immigration.
Refugees are welcome here. Refugees are welcome here. Anti-fascist, anti-fascist, anti-fascist.
As per media reports, concerns about immigration have risen to the top of the political agenda in Britain after an increase in migrants using small boats to reach the country. According to government figures, more than 32,000 migrants were being housed in around 200 hotels across the country at the end of June. A recent YouGov poll for The Times found that 71% of voters believe the Prime Minister is handling the asylum hotel issue badly. And while 22% say that he is managing it well, and about 17% are unsure. The government says that it will reform the asylum appeals process to speed up decisions, reduce the backlog of more than 106,000 cases, and phase out hotel use altogether. Under this plan, an independent body of adjudicators will be created to handle appeals, where wait times currently exceed a year for more than 51,000 cases. And a Belgian court has rejected the bail plea of fugitive diamond trader Mehul Choksi, who is wanted in India in connection with over $714 million bank fraud. The rejection of the bail plea comes just ahead of Choksi's extradition hearing. Reports suggest the Court of Appeals in Belgium rejected Choksi's plea after the CBI conveyed to the Belgian prosecution that Choksi had escaped from many jurisdictions earlier. It also raised concerns that the fugitive diamond trader could flee the country if let out on bail. In the month of April, Choksi was arrested in Belgium on the basis of an extradition request sent by the CBI. The arguments in the extradition case of 66-year-old Choksi will be taken up in a court in Belgium in mid-September. The CBI has also invoked the United Nations Convention Against Transnational Organized Crime and the United Nations Convention Against Corruption in its extradition request. Mehul Choksi and his nephew Nirav Modi are wanted in the $1.47 billion fraud in Punjab National Bank that they allegedly orchestrated through fraudulent letters of undertaking in connivance with some bank officials at Mumbai's Brady House branch. And next up, let's take a look at what's happening in India at this hour. Starting with Prime Minister Modi, who is expected to make his first visit to Manipur since ethnic violence broke out over 2 years ago. He will visit. The visit will be likely in the second week of September. That's the update that we have for you at this hour. During his visit, he plans to meet with displaced individuals and potentially inaugurate infrastructure projects in Imphal, Churachandpur districts. And the state was placed under President's rule on the 13th of February for 6 months, which was extended for another 6 months on the 5th of August after the statutory resolution moved by Union Home Minister Amit Shah was endorsed by both the Houses of Parliament. Rescue operation is currently underway in Jammu and Kashmir's Ramban after a devastating cloudburst occurred in the district yesterday, killing 4 people. Jammu and Kashmir has witnessed a deadly August this year, with several landslides and cloudbursts claiming the lives of at least 122 people. The Election Commission has announced that it has received approximately 1.98 lakh requests from individuals seeking removal of their names from the voters list, currently being revised as part of the special intensive revision of electoral rolls in Bihar. An Indore-bound Air India plane made an emergency landing in the national capital today after being airborne for over 30 minutes as the pilot received a fire indication in the right engine of the aircraft. As per statement of Air India, one engine of the A320neo aircraft was shut down and the plane landed safely at the Delhi airport. And the Moscow Fashion Week has kicked off More than 200 brands are expected to showcase their collections at the fashion event. We are going to leave you here with this report. We'll step into a quick break after that. Stay with us. News and updates continue on the other side. This is WION. I'm Shivan.
To bring the benefits of the Subhash Chandra Show to your educational institution, teachers and students, send an invitation to Juhi Jha at juhi@such.org.in.
Is it a boat? Is it a plane? Is it an EV that runs on rails? Solar cars that face off in the desert, race against time and each other. Drones that clean up Everest's muck, seed the forest and geotag whales. But on your phone there's no such luck. There's a new scam in town and you better watch out. Only on WION. World is one at these times.
Não temos tempo! Bora! Caçamos paz! Bora!
The Earth is sending distress signals. Wildfires, droughts, and melting glaciers. Can we reverse the damage? Explore the harrowing effects of climate change. It's a wake-up call. Global emergency. Climate Tracker on WION World is One.
WION, India's global voice, the channel that brings you the biggest stories from across the world through India's lens. Now available in more than 190 countries worldwide, because we believe that the world is one. Watch us in Africa, Europe, USA and Canada, South America, Asia Pacific, Middle East and North African regions. Also available on these digital platforms across the world. WION, World is One.
Hello and welcome to the West Asia Post. I am Radi Francis, bringing you stories from a region where the battlefield is only one part of the war. Europe is now triggering its snapback mechanism. It will reimpose the toughest UN sanctions on Iran in 30 days. Iran, already under fire after the 12-day war with Israel, is now going to face further isolation. In Gaza, the war is intensifying. Journalists are being killed in hospitals in real time. Children are being starved. And the West Bank is already feeling the crushing weight of this war as well. Between Yemen and Israel, a new emerging step. The Houthis, Ansarullah, have fired a new multi-warhead missile testing Israel's Iron Dome. All this is lined up, but first, the headlines. Gaza is bleeding, it is being starved and being silenced. Now, journalists are being killed in hospitals, children are being starved and killed as well, and Israel doesn't really care about the global outcry. Even Israel's oldest allies are now speaking up, but Israel is defying the world and deepening the war into deeper Palestinian territories. The West Bank is already feeling the crushing weight. We tell you more in the following report.
The war in Gaza is slipping into a dark and merciless phase. With the suffering increasing, children starving and a future under siege. With each passing day, hundreds are dying and hope is diminishing. The seemingly targeted killing of journalists at Nasser Hospital in Khan Yunis has reignited a global firestorm.
What should we do? Do we stay here to die, to be broken? My 2 brothers died, my mother was martyred, my cousins were killed before my eyes. What should we do?
A double strike. The first missile hit the ward, the second landed on those who rushed to help. Among the dead were 5 journalists whose cameras and words had been the last window to this war.
This continuous bombing and direct targeting of journalists. Every day we bid farewell to a martyred journalist, but we will continue on this path that we have chosen, and their message will not be stopped.
Fear is always present, but today it has grown even stronger. We can't go near the doors or step outside, fearing another strike. There is no safety here. We have been bombed before, even in past months.
And as the dead are mourned, the living face a crueler enemy, hunger. The United Nations has declared it officially. Gaza is in famine. 500,000 people starving, children dying for lack of food, mothers feeding their families tea and bread crusts to survive. The world calls it a man-made crisis, a famine born not of drought, but of blockade and bombardment.
We are already getting 100 trucks in a day. But again, 100 trucks a day as opposed to the 600 we were doing during the ceasefire is you see the difference in it.
According to the Gaza Health Ministry, malnutrition-related deaths in Gaza have soared an alarming 313 since March, including 119 children. Israel, however, refuses to accept that word. Tel Aviv demands the UN retract the report, calling it flawed and political. And even as Gaza is crushed, another front widens. Occupied West Bank is under mounting pressure. In Nablus, an early morning raid left homes ransacked, tear gas in the streets, dozens injured. In Ramallah, money transfer offices were raided in broad daylight, and looming above it all, new settlements announced in the E1 corridor. A move critics say will choke off any hope of a future Palestinian state. The pattern emerges.